They said the alpha's child was broken. They said the moon had rejected him before he ever took his first breath. They said if you touched him, he would scream until blood came out of his mouth, and then he would bite. I believed none of it. Because broken things don't whimper the way he did. Welcome to Floxy's Shifter Romance Tales. Please subscribe to my channel, like, and tell me where you are watching from in the comment section. I appreciate you. I arrived at Ironpine Keep on the 4th night of Frostfall, in the year 1143 of the Northern Moons. The mountains surrounding the estate were sharp and black against the sky, their peaks cutting into the clouds like claws. Snow drifted sideways on the wind, stinging my face, soaking through my thin cloak until my skin went numb. But the cold was familiar to me. Hunger too. Fear was the only thing that still felt new. I had been walking for 3 days when the iron gates finally rose out of the storm. They weren't beautiful. They weren't welcoming. They were built to warn you. Turn back. If I hadn't needed the job, I would have. But desperation makes you brave in ugly ways. I tightened my grip on the small cloth bundle that held everything I owned and stepped forward. The guards didn't smile. They never do at Alpha Estates. Name, one of them barked. Maeve, I said softly. Maeve Rowan. Rank? Omega. His lip curled, just slightly. Figures. He waved me through without another word. The gates closed behind me with a sound that echoed in my bones. Ironpine Keep smelled like stone, smoke, and something old. Not old like history. Old like grief. The halls were wide, lit by torchlight that flickered against carved wolf sigils in the walls. Servants moved quickly, heads down, footsteps quiet. No laughter. No chatter. Just obedience. I was led to the servant wing by a woman named Head Steward Brenna. She was tall, broad-shouldered, with iron-gray hair pulled back so tightly it looked painful. Her eyes were sharp, measuring me with a single glance. "You're here because no one else will take the position," she said as we walked. "So let's be clear." I nodded. The child is not to be coddled. Not to be questioned. Not to be discussed. My stomach tightened. You will clean. You will feed. You will leave. If he screams, you wait it out. If he bites, you pull away. If he dies, she paused, then continued flatly. That will not be your concern. I stopped walking. He's a child, I said before I could stop myself. Brenna turned slowly. Her gaze pinned me in place. He is the alpha's shame, she corrected. And you would do well to remember that. She resumed walking. I followed, my heart pounding harder with every step. The West Wing nursery was locked. Not guarded. Locked. Brenna produced a heavy key and opened the door with a sharp twist. The hinges groaned as if the room itself resented being disturbed. Once per day, she said. You clean, change linens, replace food. You do not linger. What's his name? I asked. She hesitated. Prince Edrin, she said finally. Now get inside. The door shut behind me with a final, echoing thud. And then I smelled it. Not dirt. Not neglect. Pain. It was sharp and metallic, clinging to the air like blood mixed with fever. My throat tightened as my wolf stirred uneasily beneath my skin. The room was large, but dark. Heavy curtains blocked out the moonlight. The fire in the hearth had long since burned down to ash. In the far corner, surrounded by shredded blankets and overturned bowls, something small moved. A low sound reached me. Not a growl. A whimper. I swallowed and took a step closer. Hello? I whispered. The sound stopped. Then came a snarl, weak, defensive, trembling at the edges. My eyes adjusted. The pup was in his wolf form. Too young to hold it this long. Too thin. His fur, once silver by birthright, was dulled and matted with grime. His ribs showed when he breathed. When I moved again, he scrambled backward, claws skidding on stone until his back hit the wall. He cried out. The sound cut straight through me. It wasn't loud. It was desperate. I froze. Something was wrong. Children fell. Children bumped into walls. They didn't scream like that unless something deeper was hurting. I'm not here to hurt you, I said softly, lowering myself to the floor so I wasn't towering over him. I'm just here to clean. His golden eyes tracked me. They were cloudy. Unfocused. Not feral, confused. Afraid. I turned away from him deliberately and began working. I swept the floor. I replaced the untouched food with fresh meat. I changed the water. All the while, I watched him from the corner of my eye. He never relaxed. He never lay down properly. He held his head at a strange angle, favoring one side. His back legs trembled when he shifted. And every few minutes, a sharp whine slipped from his throat, like pain leaking out despite his effort to hold it in. By the time the room was clean, my chest felt tight. I wasn't supposed to touch him. I knew that. But my wolf, quiet, steady, stubborn, pressed against my ribs. He hurts, she whispered. And no one listens. I soaked a cloth in warm water and wrung it out. Slowly, carefully, I approached. The pup tensed, teeth flashing. I won't strike you, I murmured. I promise. I stopped just within reach and held out my hand. He didn't bite. He shook. I touched his paw. He flinched so hard he nearly collapsed, but when no blow came, he froze. Waiting. Bracing. My heart broke. That's it, I whispered. You're safe. Just for a moment. I cleaned his face gently, wiping away dried food and tear tracks. He leaned into the warmth without meaning to, then jerked back as if ashamed. When I moved to clean behind his ears, my fingers brushed something solid beneath the fur. He screamed. The sound tore out of him violently. He snapped at my wrist, teeth breaking skin. I gasped but didn't pull away. The pain in his reaction was too sharp. Too immediate. This wasn't aggression. This was protection. Easy, I whispered through clenched teeth. I know. I know. He released me, panting, eyes wide with terror. My wrist bled. I barely noticed. My fingers returned to the spot. The fur there was thick, tangled, almost deliberately matted. The skin beneath burned with heat. I parted the fur. And my stomach dropped. The wound was small, but angry. Red. Oozing. At the center of it, barely visible unless you knew to look, was something dark. Metal. My breath hitched. No, I whispered. My hand shook as I grabbed tweezers from the medical tray left untouched on the dresser. Hold still, I begged, not him, but whatever higher power might be listening. I grasped the tiny blackened tip and pulled. The pup held. The sound echoed off the stone walls as the object slid free. It kept coming. Long. Thin. Silver. Coated in something dark and tar-like that hissed faintly when it hit the tray. I stared at it in horror. A silver needle. Driven into a child's spine. Poisoned. This wasn't sickness. This wasn't a curse. This was torture. And someone inside this castle had done it. Behind me. The door slammed open. The door didn't just open. It slammed, hard enough to rattle the walls. I spun around instinctively, stepping in front of the pup without thinking, my body moving before my mind could catch up. Two figures filled the doorway. One of them stole the air from the room. The other froze my blood. The man was massive, tall, broad, built like the mountain stone itself had decided to walk upright. His presence pressed down on me like gravity, raw and commanding, the unmistakable weight of an alpha at full strength. This was King Roran Blackfell, ruler of the Ironpine Pack. I knew him instantly, even though I had never seen him before. The woman beside him was beautiful in the way ice is beautiful, cold, flawless, and dangerous. Her hair was pale as moonlight, braided with silver threads. Her gown shimmered like frost under torchlight. Lady Aloan, the Alpha's chosen mate. The future Luna. Her eyes snapped to the pup. Then to me. Then to the blood on my hands. "What have you done?" she shrieked. Her voice cut through the room like glass. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. King Roran stepped forward. The room seemed to shrink around him. My wolf flattened instinctively, screaming for submission, for survival. My knees threatened to buckle under the crushing force of his aura. The pup whimpered behind me. I dropped to my knees instantly, bowing my head without exposing the child. "My king," I whispered, voice shaking. "Please." He didn't let me finish. "Get away from him." The growl in his voice vibrated through the floor. I didn't move. I couldn't. There was something in his spine, I said quickly, desperation burning through the fear. A needle. Silver. Poisoned. I pulled it out. Lady Aloan laughed. It was a sharp, brittle sound. "Listen to her," she scoffed. "She's mad. Look at the child. She stabbed him." She moved fast, too fast. As she swept past me toward the pup, her sleeve brushed the metal tray. It tipped. The tweezers, the bloodied cloth, the silver needle, all of it clattered to the floor. The needle skidded once. Then vanished beneath the heavy wardrobe. My heart dropped into my stomach. "No," I breathed. "Please." "Aloan," King Roran snapped. "Step back." He crouched beside the pup, his massive hands hovering uncertainly over the trembling form. His expression cracked for a split second, confusion, fear, something dangerously close to guilt. "Edrin," he murmured. The pup lifted his head. For the first time since I had entered the room, his eyes were clear. The haze was gone. He looked at me. Recognition flickered there. I seized the moment. "Look at his eyes," I said urgently. "The poison is gone. He isn't screaming anymore." Lady Aloan turned sharply. "You foolish girl," she hissed. "You hurt him and now you invent stories to save yourself." I crawled forward, pointing at the wardrobe. "The needle rolled under there," I said. "Please. Have your guards look." The Alpha straightened slowly. "A needle," he repeated. His voice was low. "Dangerous. You accuse someone in my household of driving silver into my son's spine." "Yes," I said, meeting his gaze despite the terror clawing at me. "Because that is exactly what happened." Silence swallowed the room. Then Lady Aloan stepped closer to him, placing a hand on his arm. Her touch was possessive. "Roran," she said gently, her voice silk-soft. "The child has been examined dozens of times. He suffers from moonlock degeneration. You know this. This Omega is panicking because she's been caught abusing him." "Abusing?" The word hit like a slap. "I didn't abuse him," I said hoarsely. "I helped him." The Alpha's nostrils flared as he inhaled. I felt his attention sharpen. He could smell my fear. But beneath it, something else. Truth. Or conviction. I couldn't tell which he sensed. "Guards," he said at last. 2 armored warriors appeared instantly. "Search under the wardrobe." My breath caught. One of the guards knelt, lifting the heavy wood just enough to peer beneath it. Seconds stretched. My heart pounded so loudly I thought they could hear it. "Nothing, my king," the guard said finally. "Only dust." The world tilted. "It was there," I whispered. "I saw it." Lady Aloan smiled. "Just barely." "A liar," she said softly. "And dangerous." I lunged forward, panic breaking through my control. "Check his neck," I cried. The wound is a puncture, not a bite. Enough. The alpha's voice slammed into me like a physical force. My forehead hit the stone floor. My body folded into forced submission, muscles locking as his dominance crushed my will. My vision blurred. Take her, he ordered coldly. To the lower cells. The guards grabbed my arms. No, I gasped. Please. He's better. You can see it. As they dragged me backward, the pup lifted his head again. His golden eyes met mine. And this time, he didn't whimper. He reached out. A small paw brushing the stone. I felt it like a knife to the chest. Execute her at dawn if the healer confirms abuse, the alpha said, turning away. The dungeon doors slammed shut behind me. Darkness swallowed everything. And in that suffocating black, the truth settled into my bones. The woman who shared the alpha's bed was the same one who had driven the needle. And I was the only one who knew. The dungeon beneath Iron Pine Keep did not feel like a place meant for living things. It smelled of damp stone, rusted iron, and old fear soaked so deeply into the walls that it felt alive. My bare feet slipped against moss-slick stone as the guards shoved me forward, chains clanking with every step. The cell door opened. Then closed. The sound echoed long after they were gone. I slumped against the wall, my wrists aching where the iron cuffs had bitten into skin already torn by a frightened child's teeth. I didn't cry. I couldn't afford to. All I could see was his face. Prince Edrin. The way his eyes had cleared. The way he had reached for me. Proof. Living, breathing proof. And still, they had chosen to believe her. I pressed my forehead to the cold stone and let my breath shake. You were too slow, my wolf murmured quietly. Too gentle. No, I whispered back. I was exactly what he needed. The thought steadied me. The dungeon was silent except for distant dripping water and the faint hum of the pack above. Wolves slept in the keep, unaware that their future hung on a child who had been slowly poisoned in a locked nursery. And then, I felt it. A tightening in my chest. A pull. Not fear. Not pain. Something deeper. Something older. My mother had called it the thread. She had spoken of it only once, on a night when the moon was red and the wind smelled like snow. Our blood listens, she had said. When the pack's heart is in danger, it calls to us. I had thought it was just a story. Until now. The pull sharpened. Prince Edrin was hurting. Not screaming. Not writhing. But weak. And the alpha, his father, was standing at the edge of a lie, about to step fully into it. The thread burned hot in my veins. I gritted my teeth and pushed against the wall. Nothing happened. I pushed again. The stone was thick, ancient, meant to hold alphas and traitors alike. I was an omega. I was supposed to be weak. The thread flared. My muscles screamed as something inside me snapped into place. Not strength, focus. Precision. I pressed my hands into the damp mortar between two stones. And pushed. The mortar crumbled. I froze, heart pounding. I pushed again. Stone shifted. A sickening pop tore through my shoulder as pain exploded down my arm, but the stone moved. I gasped, breath coming in sharp, panicked bursts, and kept going. I didn't think so. I didn't hesitate. I dug. The wall gave way inch by inch until a hole formed, just wide enough for me to squeeze through. Blood ran down my arm. I didn't care. I slipped through the opening and tumbled into darkness on the other side. A storage cellar. Cold. Empty. Free. I moved through the keep like a ghost. Barefoot. Bleeding. Guided by instinct and the lingering metallic scent of poison. The healer's tower. That's where the truth would be. The door to Master Healer Corvin's study was ajar, warm light spilling into the corridor. Voices echoed faintly from inside. I pressed myself against the wall, listening. She stabbed him, Lady Aloan was saying smoothly. We were lucky to catch her in time. That wound is strange, Corvin replied nervously. Perfectly round. Too precise for a bite. My heart thundered. She used a needle, Aloan said quickly. Assassins favor them. The poison was fresh. Fresh. A lie. I slipped inside when they left, moving fast. The study smelled of herbs and parchment. Shelves lined the walls, filled with records. I went straight to the table. 3 large sheets lay spread out beneath a weighted lamp. X-rays. My hand shook as I lifted the top one. Prince Edrin age, 2. Clear. The second. Clear. The third. My breath left me in a soundless gasp. There. Faint, but unmistakable. A long, thin shadow running alongside the upper spine. Silver. Buried deep. Not new. Old. I rolled the sheet quickly, tucking it beneath my tunic just as footsteps sounded in the hall. Lady Aloan's scent, frost and metal, lingered thickly in the room. She had been here. She knew. And now I have proof. But proof wasn't enough. I needed the alpha. Before dawn. Before she finished silencing everyone who stood in her way. I slipped back into the corridors, heart racing. Toward the one place no Omega was meant to go. The alpha's private study. King Roran sat alone when I burst through the doors. A goblet of dark wine rested in his hand. Lady Aloan stood beside him. Don't drink that, I shouted. Both of them froze. What is this? Roran growled, rising to his feet. She's escaped, Aloan snapped, fury cracking through her calm. Guards. The wine is poisoned, I said, stepping forward despite the fear ripping through me. Just like your son. I threw the rolled X-ray onto his desk. Look. He hesitated. Then unrolled it. I watched his face change. Confusion. Shock. Rage. That shadow, he whispered. That's Silver, I said. It's been in him for years. Aloan lunged for the goblet. Roran caught her wrist mid-motion. Explain, he demanded. She smiled. Then she shifted. White fur exploded outward as bones cracked and reformed. A massive she-wolf filled the room, eyes blazing with hate. The throne was never yours, she snarled. She leapt. The world erupted into violence. I reached for the thread. For the bond. For the truth. And this time, the alpha listened. The room became a storm of teeth, claws, and splintering wood. King Roran shifted mid-fall, his body expanding, bones cracking as his massive black wolf slammed into Lady Aloan's white form. The desk shattered beneath them. Books flew. Glass exploded. I staggered back, barely keeping my footing. Aloan wasn't fighting to escape. She was fighting to kill. Her jaws snapped for Roran's throat, her movements sharp and precise, trained. This wasn't a lover defending herself. This was an assassin finishing a job. The thread burned hotter. I didn't think so. I ran toward them. Roran roared as Aloan's teeth tore into his shoulder, blood spraying across the stone. The sound was feral, raw, filled with betrayal so deep it vibrated through the room. I slammed my palm against his bleeding side. Not to heal. To bind. The thread snapped open. Pain ripped through my skull as his mind crashed into mine, memories, rage, grief, confusion flooding me all at once. She poisoned him, I sent, forcing the truth through the bond. The needle. The wine. Your son. Aloan shrieked, sensing the breach. She lunged for me. Roran moved faster. His jaws closed around her throat. Bone cracked. The sound echoed through the keep like a death knell. The white wolf went still. Silence followed, thick, stunned, final. Roran shifted back, blood soaking his human form, chest heaving. He stared at the body on the floor like he didn't recognize it. I sank to my knees, shaking. It was over. But the truth still wasn't finished with us. Dawn broke red over Ironpine Keep. The pack gathered in the central courtyard, murmurs rippling through the crowd as Alolan's body was laid out before them. Her crimes were spoken aloud, every lie, every falsified record, every year of silent torture inflicted on the Alpha's heir. The healer confessed. The guards bowed their heads. And then Roran spoke. I failed my son, he said, his voice carrying over the stone. I trusted the wrong wolf. And I almost executed the one who saved him. His gaze found me. I stood beside the dais, wrapped in a borrowed cloak, my hands still trembling. This Omega, he continued, defied my orders and uncovered the truth buried beneath silver and poison. She is no servant. She is the reason my child still breathes. The elders murmured. One stepped forward. What reward do you grant her, my king? Roran didn't hesitate. She is declared guardian of the heir. Under my protection. Above reproach. A shockwave rippled through the pack. An Omega. Elevated. But the thread didn't loosen. If anything, it pulled tighter. Edrin healed quickly once the poison was gone. Too quickly. Within days, he shifted back into human form, a small, dark-haired boy with golden eyes far too old for his age. He followed me everywhere, silent but watchful, his hand always slipping into mine. One evening, Roran stood in the nursery doorway, watching us. He never bonded like this, he said quietly. Not with anyone. I swallowed. The thread, I said. It recognizes blood. He stilled. What do you mean? I hadn't planned to tell him. But the pull in my chest twisted painfully. There's something you don't know, I said slowly. About his birth. Roran's expression tightened. My mate died bringing him into the world. I shook my head. She didn't die in childbirth. The words fell like stones. She was poisoned. Slowly. And she knew it. His breath hitched. She left a journal, I continued. Hidden. In your study. He went very still. I led him there myself. The journal was exactly where I knew it would be. Roran's hand shook as he read. Page by page, his face drained of color. When he reached the final entry, he sat down heavily. She couldn't carry an alpha heir, he whispered. So she. Choose a surrogate, I said. One with pure alpha carrier blood. A woman she trusted with her life. He looked up at me. Recognition flickered. Horror. Hope. The journal describes her scent, he said hoarsely. Vanilla. Rain. My throat closed. My mother ran when I was born, I whispered. Changed our names. Hid us. The room suddenly felt too small. Roran rose slowly. No, he breathed. Yes. The thread tightened until it hurt. I am Edrin's birth mother. The silence shattered something inside him. Footsteps padded into the room. Small. Bare. Mom? Edrin whispered. He walked straight past Roran and wrapped his arms around my waist. I dropped to my knees, holding him as if letting go would tear me apart. Roran knelt beside us, one hand resting on his son's head, the other trembling as it touched my shoulder. The circle closed. At last. The pack did not accept the truth quietly. They never do. News of Edrin's birth spread through Ironpine like wildfire, an heir carried in secrecy, a Luna murdered by poison, an Omega revealed as the king's equal in blood if not in title. Whispers followed me through the halls. Usurper, trickster, weak link. I bore them in silence. Because Edrin slept peacefully for the first time in his life, curled against my side, his breathing slow and even. And because the thread had changed. It no longer pulled. It anchored. The challenge came at moonrise. It always does. A rival alpha from the Frostvale border arrived with his warriors, his voice ringing across the courtyard. "You have revealed weakness," he declared. "A hidden heir. A compromised throne. An Omega at your side. I invoke the right of claim." The pack roared. Roran stepped forward, his presence ironclad. "You will leave," he said simply. The Frostvale Alpha smiled. "Only if she submits to the trial." My heart stuttered. Roran's head snapped toward me. "No." The elders murmured uneasily. "The law is old," one said. "But binding. Blood revealed must be tested." I stepped forward before Roran could speak again. "I will stand," I said. His eyes burned into mine. "You owe no one this." "I owe my son a future," I replied quietly. The trial was not fought with claws. It was fought with truth. I stood within the stone circle as the Frostvale Alpha pressed his dominance against mine, his aura crashing into me like a tidal wave. My knees buckled. The thread surged. I didn't resist. I opened myself. The bond unfurled, memories, intent, sacrifice, bloodline purity revealed not in force, but in clarity. The watching pack gasped as the air shifted. Edrin cried out. Roran moved instinctively, his presence flaring as he joined the bond, not to dominate, but to align. 3 strands. Mother. Father. Heir. The circle glowed faintly beneath our feet. The Frostvale Alpha staggered back, choking. "This isn't possible," he rasped. "It is," Roran said. "And it is complete." The elders bowed. The challenge dissolved. That night, the mating bond snapped into place. Not violently. Not possessively. Gently. Like something that had been waiting years to come home. Roran found me on the balcony overlooking the forest, moonlight silvering his dark hair. "I would not claim you out of duty," he said. "Or blood. Or power." I turned to him, heart aching. "Then why?" I whispered. "Because you were brave when I was blind," he said. "Because you chose our son without knowing he was yours. Because you stood alone when the world tried to break you." The bond bloomed. Warm. Steady. Certain. I rested my forehead against his chest and let myself believe in something permanent. Weeks later, a messenger arrived at dawn. The Frostvale Alpha was dead. Poisoned. Silver in the spine. The same method. A warning. Roran read the message twice before handing it to me. "This isn't over," he said grimly. I nodded. "I know." But this time I wasn't afraid. Because Iron Pine was no longer a broken pack. Because the thread no longer whispered in warning, it sang in harmony. Because my son laughed in the courtyard, strong and whole. And because the throne was no longer built on lies. It was built on truth. On survival. On love hard-won and fiercely protected. And anyone who tried to tear it apart would answer all of us.